Well, hello everybody. I'm ready to move, but it's very cold and it's still snowing here at home. I want to do this live for all of you. It's breaking truth. It's reality. It's the flip-flop of Justin Trudeau on heating oil carbon tax, which sustains Atlantic Canada all winter long. As we move away from fossil fuels, as the government's narrative dictates that we all need to move away, and that means entertaining green hydrogen that is 40% efficient at best than natural gas. And oil, coal, don't even get me started, because that system is about 8% efficiency comparatively to coal and natural gas, which should be the Atlantic Canada reality. But it's not. And it goes far beyond Trudeau, even though that's smug. And I'm sorry, maybe I should have put a 18 plus, but I'm not going to swear. I'm going to control myself and keep it for everybody, all kids involved. But that smug imbecile Justin Trudeau, and just his ignorant, sheer ignorance of economics, that Stephen Harper, a master of economics, used to the absolute detriment of all Canadians to buy Eastern Liberal votes. It didn't work. It didn't work. But he tried, and he tried to do it through divine socialism. I put a link in this title that I can back up, and I can debate against anyone in Canada, any economist, any political scientist, any politician you put in front of me. I will back up all these numbers, everything I'm about to state to all of you, and I tag my friend Jeffrey Gibson in this, Jeremy, because we're going to be talking later, and this is going to be highly offensive to Atlantic Canadians. I know that. Manitobans, I know that. Maybe not as bad for Quebecois, and not as bad for the First Peoples, because there's a truth here, and there's clearly a racism that is highest against the First Peoples, and then second highest against the Quebecois, and it's lies. It's based on absolute lies. They look at the numbers, you say, oh, look how much those people are getting, oh, but it's not in relation to per person per capita. And when you start looking at that, you look at these populations and how much is distributed around Canada from largely, nearly the entire bulk comes from you, the working Canadian, wherever you live. And I'm sorry, these are by the numbers. Who's the most subsidized people in Canada? Is it the First Peoples and then the Quebecois, like we see a majority Canadians believe, especially out here in the West and historically throughout Canada? The answer is no. It's in fact reversed. And it becomes really brutal and inhumane when you look at the system the First Peoples are forced into, and the system that they're forced into that supposedly takes care of them. I will go through the numbers by the numbers in the numbers of people. So to begin with, who is the most subsidized of all Canadians? That's Prince Edward Island, Atlantic Canada. There are only 155,000 Prince Edward Islanders, and they are subsidized at a whopping 50% of everything they have, meaning their entire budget and economy is 50% subsidized by all Canadians. It means half of everything they have came from working Canadians somewhere else in Canada. Fact, not fiction. By the numbers. the equalization formula, and all federal transfers in deficit of what Prince Edward Island actually produces. Sorry, that's the truth. So subsidized, in fact, they get 10 times what the average Quebecois citizen gets, or subject, I'm sorry. I gotta watch my own words. And absolutely nearly 30 times what the average Indian Act defined as savage person gets here in Canada. And when you look at actual unceded and the numbered Treaty Indians, they get it absolutely the worst. PEIers are getting nearly 50 times. So for every $50 Canadians turn over to a Prince Edward Islander, you give $1 to an Indian under the Indian Act. Think about that. Think about that. That's numbered treaty and the unceded. That's what they get. Absolutely. I could debate anybody all day long and kick their butt. All sourced easily from the Government of Canada website in 2023 numbers. Now who's next? And I'm sorry, New Brunswick, it's you. 32% of everything you have, your economy, is subsidized from all working Canadians. You're number 2 on the list. 32% of everything you have comes from somebody else in Canada. Your entire economy, 32% of it subsidized by largely the rest of working Canada. Who's number 3? Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia. 31% of everything you have comes from somebody else working in Canada, delivering to you and your economy. Everything you have, 31%. Who's next? Well, that'd be Manitoba. Manitoba, and it's only half as much as Atlantic Canada. Just over half as much as Atlantic Canada. Half as much. I bet you, I hope this shocks people. And we're talking about now 16% of everything in Manitoba came from somebody else working in Manitoba. Everything, their economy, all of it, largely subsidized from everybody else working in Canada. Who's after that? It's Quebec. And sorry, Canadians and Western Canadians, in this big charge against Quebec, 14% goes to Quebec. That's it. 14% of everybody's work in Canada goes to Quebec. Do you know what the Indians get in Canada? 2.5 million souls. 4.7% of everything Canadians work and produce in this country and send to the government, they get 4.7%. By far the lowest. The lowest. And remember, there's no federalism, folks. When you start looking at their health, their education, the rest of it, you start puking because you realize a cow, I'm not going to swear, a bloody cow, an animal, gets more subsidy in Canada than a first-person human being who has no ability to utilize anything in Section 92 or 91. None of it. The federal government assumes all of Section 91, all of 92, and says, you are under the Indian Act, and according to our constitutional acts of Canada, you're savages, you're non-human beings. We will put you like animals on reserves. No self-determination, no self-government. We give band offices an allowance to disperse out to you, almost like a child, except for it's more like livestock, animals on a reservation, a game preserve. And very tiny one at that. So tiny, in fact, you can add up all the parks, and it's tremendously more amount of land for wild animals than the savage Indian peoples. Now, I know this is hard for Canadians to eat, to stomach, but it's the truth. Everything you're told in Canada is truthfully in absolute reverse of what's mainstream, what's focused and targeted and propagated. You won't find any crown-sworn economist, journalist, or anybody going through what I'm going through by the 2023 numbers today, that have been by the numbers forever and a day in Canada, with minor variations and alterations, and absolutely the 2007 and 2009 massive socialist fascist changes in Canada, specifically the equalization formula and the rationale and mathematical decision making that go into equalization and federal transfers. We are socialist, fascist. We're not getting any better, and it's going to continue. Is it Atlantic Canada's fault? No. The Conservatives and Liberals have been destroying Atlantic Canada for a very long time in the model and spirit of who those people are. And I'm sorry, Atlantic Canadians, you got too involved in the United States on independence and post after that. I have all the records in the genocide. I also know your historical roots and your immigration rates and which countries you came from. Canada is built and created in the spirit of the British Empire. We model ourselves. Ottawa is defined by that. The MPs follow that. And I'm sorry, but your immigration, largely Irish and Scottish, puts you in the savage crosshairs, the put those people down, keep them down crosshairs of an age-old socialist fascist design. There is nothing wrong with Atlantic Canadians, Acadians, and all those that immigrated from Europe, and specifically the large portion of Irish and Scottish. There's nothing wrong with you or the First Peoples in Canada. It's what Canada has legislated and done to you. The Laurentian elite. They've destroyed your industries. And like the First Peoples, like all peoples, like Quebecois, like the Acadians, you resist as best you can. I know I work with a tremendous amount of Atlantic Canadians all over jobs. Now I too find myself, as Alberta's getting crushed, that I have to travel. I have to look for work elsewhere. Because if you want to remain sustainable and you want to remain independent of the socialist fascist state, you will, with the whip cracked, find every avenue wherever that takes you to earn and make a living. And Atlantic Canadians have been doing it longer than anybody. Again, for everybody else who has any notion that Indian Act peoples are lazy or that they do this on purpose, it is forced. It is forced, as it always has been since day one and since the inception of the Indian Act. Remember, they can't have their own governance. They can't build their own infrastructure. They don't get to tax. No, they don't get the power of taxation. They can't create infrastructure beyond what the federal government controls with an iron fist, like a communist full-on dictatorship, and an enslavement beyond enslavement of a people's, dehumanizing them. And I'm going to say this again, and I will debate anybody, any politician, and I will kick them right in their gonads. I will kick them in their gonads. Of course, they say that figuratively, not literally. I mean on any debate, by the numbers, by the government sources. I can back up everything said in this video. It's immense. It should be shared. I know it looks offensive, but it's the truth as it really is. And the longer we ignore that truth, the worse it's going to get in Canada. Trudeau has no choice but to pull back the carbon tax on heating oil Atlantic Canada, because you're only taking subsidies that you're subsidizing, meaning you can't remove that or you economically depress a nation. PEI can't pay. Who are you paying? You're robbing Paul to pay Paul? Trudeau and the Liberals love to rob Peter to pay Paul, but they know they can't rob Paul to pay Paul because they are Paul. They'd only be robbing themselves. You see, Canadians, garbage, garbage, garbage. And if you think Pierre Poilievre isn't a dirty, dirty socialist pig, just like Justin Trudeau, you're wrong. In all his historical votes, I can show you who created this system, who created the immense welfare, the depression of the Atlantic peoples, the depression of the First Peoples, the Acadians, the French, all the way to Manitoba. I can show you who increased it by extremely large margins, so large that they now depress and repress Alberta and many other areas of the economy that are vital primary sector generators that are going to lead to our ruin. It was Pierre Poilievre. He was there under multiple ministries as a lifetime Privy Council. He did those backroom deals with then Prime Minister Harper. Those who give him a pass are guilty. All you, I'm conservative, you give this man a pass, you might as well take Justin Trudeau and give him a big, fat, wet, sloppy kiss. You might as well and say, I'm a liberal, and run hand in hand with him down the Trans-Canada from one end to the other. Because that's truly what you are. And until Canadians take these truths as they are, I know they're pioneering truths, they're hard to accept at first, but they're the truth, the absolute truth, the whole truth. I'm not lying. I don't have to lie. I have all the government links, 2023. And I can break it down provincially versus federal Indian Affairs Ministry over the Indian Act Indians. And clearly it shows the truth that we're culturally, socially, and economically murdering these people. And then we make a propaganda that they're all useless welfare recipients, lazy and no good, even though the system's designed to create that. And we're trying to create that in Atlantic Canada. Absolutely, PEI is the worst of the worst. Then New Brunswick, then Nova Scotia, then Manitoba, then Quebec, and then absolutely the poor First Peoples, all in that order. And nobody can debate that or prove me wrong. By the numbers. It's inhumane. It's disgusting. It's a sick, perverted, broken country that doesn't work anymore. It needs to be fixed, and there is a way. It starts with viable social programs. It starts with complete constitutional dismemberment and redesign of the Canadian Constitution and the forced implementation of provincial and territorial constitutions, as well as constitutions for all the First Peoples. Divinity be damned, that's gotta go. Every cockamamie crazy SOB, male or female, that comes with, I know what to do, I will write the rules for everybody. You're just another Trudeau, Poilievre, Singh, May, lunatic, radical, psycho. A delusion of grandeur that comes to you because you're in a divine socialist fascist state. You've been institutionalized, born, bred into it over many generations, or you immigrated, swore the oath, and you don't know any better, but it'll take you generations in your family to learn and understand these concepts. Of course, by then it's too late. Share, share, share. Get this video out there And, I don't know about later today or in the next few days, I am going to do a live with Jeffrey Gibson. I owe him that. And I want to go through some of this, Jeffrey, and much more. My trip in BC and everything else. I know I got to do a lot of lives with a lot of people. And I've been kind of withdrawn, but I got lots to do too. And the winter came very early this year. It's brutal here in Alberta. And of course, nobody likes to talk about that. Climate change is about wealth transfer and instituting mass divine socialism. Canada leads this charge worldwide. We're the worst of the worst because we are an absolute divine socialist fascist state. The same model as what Nazi Germany was. South Africa, we've replaced them on exploitation of our resources for literally, it's not even pennies on the dollar in some cases, on our tremendous, most expensive and luxurious resources. We're getting literally 200,000th of a penny on the dollar, and that should make you all puke. But Canadians don't know any better. I guess it's like South Africa, you gotta wait till it gets that bad. You have to wait until it's absolutely in dire straits before you do anything about it. I don't know. I made this video and it's up to all of you to share it. Get it out there by the numbers. There is nothing else in the world that exists in this manner like it does in Canada today. It blows Israel and Gaza out of the water. Maybe not an actual physical murder today, but in socio-economical and cultural warfare, it most certainly does. Most certainly does. It clearly blows away Ukraine and Russia, hands down. And what amazes me is because they keep that genocide below that threshold, even though it's the longest running of its kind in the entire world, they get away with it. And Canadians just, I don't want to see it, I don't care, I just keep paying my taxes. My taxes grow, the inequality grows, things are getting harder. I don't know why. It's Trudeau. It's all of them. And Trudeau is only a symptom of a whole. It's not going to change whether you get the next, again, I'm not going to swear, the next buffoon, the next stage actor, the next radical divine socialist fascist to replace them. They could be conservative, they could be liberal, you could roll the dice, NDP, Green, PPC, it does not matter whom you bring forward. The design, the institution is always and forever the same. It's not going to change because they're all sworn and bound to it. There are no rules of governance. There's no rules on how to govern, and there's certainly a zero accountability. And that's a recipe for absolute abhorrent, horrific totalitarian dictatorship coming. It's already here. It's been going on. They chip away more and more and more. And Canadians go, why is there a housing crisis? Why is there an inflation crisis? Why is my cost of living so radical? Why are the things that are essential to me slipping away further and further? Why is the generation of today to have nothing? Share the video. The answers are all here. No government's going to get away from it. You're going to defeat them all in any debate, any given day of the week. Any economist, any political scientist. That's my message in this video. I will kick the doors off of anybody, anyone in debate. Share. Bye now. Enjoy the rest of the day. I'm going to get my girls. They want to see me, and we're going to spend the weekend. Bye now.